It is an honor to be with you all. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
I'd like to talk about strategies for establishing PROUT. Our founder, Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, talked about this a lot. First, I'd like to, something from his book, Liberation of the Intellect, Neo-Humanism, has always impressed me a lot. He said, he wrote, if you see injustice, if you see exploitation, there are three ways to respond to that. The first way is silence. Out of fear of losing your position, your job. Another response is reform, to try to legally change the system. It's excellent, except for one small thing. It takes a very long time, usually. So it means that if we're talking about stopping the exploitation in the world, everyone you want to save may be dead by that time. The third way of response is revolution. And Sarkar clearly put himself in that category. And I consider myself a revolutionary as well. Political scientists look at different ways that society can change. And so I'm going to mention some of the different ways that we can consider society changing. Political scientists are not all in agreement about these, but certainly there's the chance of electoral politics. By running candidates, by winning elections, it is possible to change society. Actually, Venezuela, when President Hugo Chavez was elected president, he dramatically changed the country in many ways. Some positive, he also made some serious mistakes. Second is a great leader. Nelson Mandela certainly would qualify in that respect. A military coup is another way of changing society. Usually we think of military coups as negative, but for example, in Portugal, when a dictator was there for many years, they had the Carnation Revolution in which no one was hurt, but the military officers, with all their military planning, managed to capture the dictator and his cronies, put them in armored vehicles through the city to prevent the people from hurting them, took them to the airport, put them on a plane. Brazil had already agreed to take these Portuguese dictators, give them asylum, and they said, we're protecting you now. If you ever come back, we will not protect you. And they left, they established democracy. They did not maintain power. They established, they decolonized the country as well. They gave freedom to the 5 Portuguese colonies in Africa. So a military coup is not always a negative thing. Violent revolution, of course, is another way to make social change. Communist revolutions, for example, in Cuba, in Russia, in China, are certainly examples of dramatic social change. Direct action and civil disobedience. For example, the Hong Kong protests, they were not able to change society, but they, in many countries, they have overthrown dictators. In Philippines and dozens of other countries, civil disobedience has allowed the people to overthrow dictators. And the mass uprising or people power is a form of this. Economic boycott and cooperatives is another form. And it's interesting because we don't usually consider that, but cooperatives are a way to make alternative economic models, local economies. And it is certainly possible to change society in that way as well. Finally, and political scientists often would not agree on this, but other people do, there's God. The idea of a supreme consciousness, a supreme power that can also dramatically change the world. Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar kind of gave importance to all these possibilities. And I'd like to consider now the different ways that he asked Proutists to report regularly. So all the Prout workers in the world had to give reports, and he asked a number of different things. His goal was nuclear revolution. And just to remember what this goal implies, he says, a nuclear revolution means that the collective life is completely transformed for everyone. This social, economic life, political life, cultural life, mental life, and spiritual life. He said there'll be new moral, spiritual values. There'll be a collective psychology. This consciousness changes in the people, and all-round development and social progress. This is what Prout aims for, a total transformation of society. Not just a change of government, not just a change of politics, a change of life for everyone on the planet. And not just in one country either, everyone. So the first thing that Sarkar asked for, demanded, was Prout lectures to explain Prout to the public. We should be talking Prout to the public all the time, wherever we go, every chance possible. Now, you can do that well, you can do that not so well. We've all heard boring lectures. How can you do an inspiring lecture that impacts people, that inflames an audience, that makes people want to rise up? Spiritually Speaking Club is one way to do that. We practice. And I will put in the chat at the end how to sign up for a Spiritually Speaking Club from the Planetary Leadership Training. We have 2 sessions, one mostly in the Americas and Europe, and another one that's mostly in Asia. I need somebody to be muted, so if somebody can please assist that. The second way, Baba said, was through Prout books, pamphlets, and leaflets. I include social media because that did not exist in P.R. Sarkar's lifetime, but it sure is today. So this is a way to get thinking people to consider this alternative. So traditionally, it meant publishing books, pamphlets, leaflets, all good things. Now, to get a lot of readers is not easy, especially because today fewer and fewer people are reading physical books. However, the media is a way to get that message out much more, the social media. Baba also said that we should publish PROUT newspapers, PROUT magazines, and use the media. Two ways to use the media today are podcasts. We have one called PROUT Rev, centered here in the United States, and which is just podcasts, right? And the other one is a beautiful one I've just discovered, PROUT TV, organized from India. So using the media is another way to get PROUT's message to everyone. Sarkar also insisted we should do marches and demonstrations and protests. Now, I think it's very important in every march, every time there's an anti-war march, all the signs are against war. But we should give the positive messages, I think. Our banners, our signs, our messaging should be what our goal is, what we want, what kind of society we want. And in that way, people appreciate it. We're positive. In India, when Sarkar was in prison, many demonstrations ended with the people getting arrested. And actually, Sarkar praised this strategy because it certainly makes more impact in the news. Plus, it radicalizes the participants. Sarkar also said that we should be running candidates for elections. In India, there are two political parties. One is called Amra Bengali, which is just in Bengal, and the other one is the Proudest Bloc of India, which is running this woman candidate in Delhi. So it's an opportunity to get our platform to the public. I think it's a very interesting strategy. In India, almost never did we win elections. The only elections Proudest tended to win were very tiny ones at the village level or panchayat level. However, it's a way to get Proud's message to the public, that everyone knows that this candidate stands for these Proud principles. New Zealand has just started a political party based on PROUT. It's certainly one of the strategies that P.R. Sarkar was taking reports every day. How many people are running for political office on the PROUT platform? Wall writing. In India, this is a common practice at election time, especially. You go around to empty walls and you paint your political messages on them. It's mostly not illegal in India. In Maharlika, the Philippines, the Proudest did a lot of wall writing. They had slogans like, because the Communist Party, the New People's Army, was fighting the government, they made slogans that said, capitalism makes people beggars. Communism makes people beasts. PROUT. it certainly created a reaction throughout the country. In the United States, on the Supreme Court wall in Connecticut, Proutists wrote, "Capital punishment equals those with the capital give the punishment." So wall writing it's not always legal, but it's certainly a way to get a message to the public. And I should just mention in Maharlika, the Proutists got arrested many times, and then they would give lectures to the police officers at the station, explaining what their message is, why they're against communism. And because the police officers were mostly all against communism, they eventually let them go, and then the Proutists would go back and finish the sign they were writing on the wall. So in Denmark, they took the logo of the Danske Bank, the largest bank in Denmark, and they slightly modified it to make stickers. Capitalism sucks, so let's move on. It was a way to get people's attention to the problems of capitalism and why we need a solution. Popular mass movements are another way, another strategy. This is from Amrit Bengali, and it's become a major movement in Bengal, and also it's a political party as well. So it's a way to really mobilize all the people for different PROUT strategies. What is interesting to me is that popular mass movements combine both right and left. Traditionally, politics is kind of divided between conservatives and progressives or liberals or radicals. But Sarkar used strategies that included the sentiment people have for their land. "This is God's country" is a conservative slogan in the United States. I agree with him. I'm sure it is God's country. I think everywhere is God's country. But that plays too. So anti-exploitation movements where PROUT demands full employment for the local people, for everyone who lives there, but don't bring in outsiders, just employ everyone who's there. That's one of the slogans of popular mass movements of PROUT, the Samaj movements. So these 7 different techniques, they're obviously slightly different. And yet Sarkar demanded reports on these every day. The lectures, how many PROUT books, pamphlets, leaflets have been published, have been distributed, to run political candidates, all these different strategies, the wall writing. The Amrit Bengali also launched a movement of wall writing where any sign that was not in the local language, they would take black paint and paint over it to encourage the use of the local language, Bengali, and not foreign languages. Radical techniques, radical strategies to mobilize the people and unite the people against outside exploitation of the area. In 1990, one evening, the founder of PROUT, Baba, was walking with a few people, and he asked them a question. Do you think PROUT will be established by the power of the sword, violence, or muscle, meaning political power, or the mystical mantra? They didn't respond, so Baba answered, none of the above. No, it will not be established by mantra, muscle, sword, bloodshed, or military might. It will be established by the efforts of many intellectuals and spiritualists. Your duty is to do maximum prachar. This means to get your message to every corner so that no one could say they did not know of Anandamarga or PROUT. You do your duty, and everything will happen in time. This message is my guiding light. I don't believe that I'm going to be the one to make PROUT happen in this world. My duty, I feel very strongly, I think for all of us, is to get PROUT's message to everyone, to raise their consciousness. Because PROUT is so logical, it's so rational, it's so reasonable, that when people learn it, when people understand it, what's to object to? So this is what I see as my major duty, to get PROUT's message to the world. And I think that countries will establish PROUT. It will happen. And also that last way to change the world, I think the Supreme Consciousness will also be assisting that process. We should just let everybody know about PROUT. Sarkar said the forces opposed to revolution possess immense military power. In spite of this, the revolutionaries will achieve victory because moral and spiritual power is infinitely stronger than physical force. Infinitely stronger. So, not to ever lose hope, not to ever feel helpless. He also said, your actions now are equal to 100 years, meaning we have, the time is very critical right now. We need to unite people. We need to change the world as fast as possible. We need to be revolutionaries who base our lives on love. We Proutists are part of a global movement to raise consciousness about the need to share the resources of planet Earth for the welfare of everyone. This, I think, should be our motto. Now, how to raise consciousness? I'm going to suggest some ideas, but I need your help with this. One idea, I think, is PROUT slogans, posters, memes, songs, art, theater. When Proutists have a demonstration, we usually make signs the night before. I have lists of 150 different PROUT slogans. You make up your own. You choose any slogan you like. There's no copyright on slogans. And these are ways to get that message to lots of people. Lots of people can see a sign. Lots of people can see a poster or a sticker on the wall. Of course, memes through the internet, how to get messages to lots of people. Songs, art, theater. Every revolutionary movement through history has used culture to inspire the people. Prout t-shirts, signs, bumper stickers. Again, ways for more and more people to see us, to see the message. TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, letters to the editor. The corporate media will not support revolutionary movements. However, it is possible, by thinking strategically, to use the TV, radio, and newspapers, corporate media, to get our message out. How? By clever demonstrations, by clever messaging, by getting arrested for a good cause. All ways that the media will cover you if you do it strategically and effectively. Social media. You can literally reach millions of people today through the effective use of social media. Create blogs, podcasts, YouTubes. The same thing. Dada Maheshvarananda, made a YouTube called Consciousness, the Final Frontier. He made it as a TED Talk. It now has about 5 million views. I don't think we have 5 million Ananda Margis or Proutists in the world yet, but be sure, with the title and with a fantastic talk, Consciousness, the Final Frontier, I highly recommend you listen. Join the Tools to Change the World study circle. We have this book. It's available for download free of charge. The Tools to Change the World.org website has the computer translations of the book into 60 languages. They're not perfect translations, but they're pretty good. They've improved a lot. And start a study circle. The whole purpose of the book was to empower you to empower others. Organize online conferences of progressive thinkers. I would say like this one, but the whole point of online conferences is getting our message to the public. So, how to reach more and more people. Again, an online conference has the potential to involve many more people at no cost than a physical conference where you have to fly in and house and feed, progressive speakers. Join another progressive organization to learn from them and also to share PROUT with them. And join coalitions of other organizations to be in a movement. Ecological organizations, political organizations, a coalition. Doesn't mean you agree with everything, but you agree with the main principles, the main goals of that coalition. So these are suggestions that I am making. how to get Prout's message to the world, how to let everyone know that this is what we need. And as I said, this is a free download that you can choose. Tools to change the world. Then you select whatever language you speak. All right, that's my presentation. Now I want to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Dada. And I'd like to open the forum to questions to Dada.
Anjali wrote, could that statement be written? I don't understand, sorry. And I must say, I'm sorry, because I don't know which statement you were referring to, the one on the wall. Oh, okay. The one on the wall, the sticker on the wall was capitalism sucks. Capitalism is no good. It's horrible. So let's move on. So let's make an alternative. It didn't specifically say Prout. When is the world ready for Prout? How to unite people? Did Sarkar give some advice? Those are three questions. When is the world ready for Prout? It's desperate for Prout now. It just doesn't know it. There's hunger in the world. You know, occasionally I meet people who get excited with the idea of extraterrestrials coming to help us. I believe there are extraterrestrials in the universe. I think so. I don't know it, but I think so. We don't need any extra help. We have enough food on the planet, according to the United Nations World Health Organization, to feed 10 billion people, more than enough people that live on our planet today. Why is there hunger? It's not our priority. Why are 9 million people dying of hunger every year, and 3 million of those are children? That's obscene, excuse me. It's a crime. But because it's not our priority, we allow it to go on. Why is there poverty? Why are so many people without adequate food, clothing, housing, education, and free medical care? Why? We have all of those things. In the United States, you know, there's over 500,000 homeless people every night. 500,000, right? And did you know that in the United States, there are 6 empty houses for every homeless man, woman, and child in the country? Empty houses. Is there a need for Prout? Desperately. To utilize, not abuse, not exploit, to utilize all the resources of the planet for the welfare of everyone. The world is desperate for that. How to unite people? Everything I'm talking about is with the idea to uniting people. Baba said, unite the moralists. So get the message to the moralists. I am using language. I understood that virtually all the people here would be followers of Prout, members of Ananda Marga. So I'm using local language. But it can also be said that whenever I'm talking to the public, obviously, I'm using language of the public. I'm dressed in these very bright, unusual clothes, and I explain that every time that I'm a monk of yoga and meditation. But you, all of you, have the potential to reach people in your language, in your country, in your culture. And practice helps a lot. I tell everyone I'm embarrassed because 4 years ago, I joined the Toastmasters Club. It's an old club in the United States. It's international now, 160. A lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people are members of this club. It's a public speaking club. You practice public speaking. I've given 35 talks in that club. All the talks, you choose your own talk. They're short talks, 7-minute talks. But all my talks are about PROUT and meditation and spirituality and yama niyama. I'm embarrassed because I've improved so much, because every time they give you good feedback, they tell you, well, that made sense and this didn't make sense. I gave a talk about Baba, for example. And the first time I gave that talk about Baba, somebody said that they felt like I was shouting at them. The second time I tweaked the talk a little bit. I gave a talk all about Baba. They said, boy, this was a lot better. We really liked this one. So by practicing, and that's why we created the Spiritually Speaking Clubs, 2 different times for different time zones. It's an opportunity to practice speaking to a small group of people how to get those ideas to everyone. All right, I'm going to read some more of the questions here in the chat.
Yes, please send your questions to the chat, everybody.
Do you know and approve about local currencies to help a currency among people who have nothing? Absolutely. I mention it in my book about PROUT, After Capitalism. Local currencies are a tool that can be used. I don't think local currencies are enough to change the world, but there's certainly a strategic tool that local communities can use to strengthen their local economy and get their message to everyone. And to help to some extent, no local currency will really solve the problem because it's bigger than a local community, but they will certainly help. P.R. Sarkar specifically guided us to emphasize shared communities as a way to unite people. I'd asked Dada Maheshvarananda to explain this idea more. Can you say something, Dada Maheshvarananda?
I'm not available right now, actually. I just wanted to share that comment. Not communities, commonalities.
Oh, commonalities. Thank you to emphasize shared commonalities as a way to unite people. What do we have in common? He's saying that we should focus on what we have in common, not our differences, but our similarities. Absolutely. Madhavi asked a question, just to me it says, but I'm going to answer to everyone. How successful was your work in Venezuela? Did you approach the political leaders? We tried. We certainly got to a lot of people in Venezuela. We got to a lot of cooperatives in Venezuela. We got to political leaders. I was able to meet President Chavez. I was able to give him a copy of my book. I'm not sure he ever read it. He didn't give a lot of importance to it. He was more influenced, I think, by the communist model, the Cuban model, which worked less well in Venezuela. I mean, he gave free education to everyone, free medical care to everyone. Those were 2 wonderful things that the United States, I wish, would learn from Venezuela. unfortunately, the economics, you know, he wanted price controls just like Prout wants the purchasing capacity of everyone to increase. Well, they use price controls for that. Cuba's an island, so they could fix whatever price they want. He fixed prices in Venezuela, and you got massive smuggling across the borders of Colombia and to Guyana and to Brazil and to the Caribbean. Massive smuggling. So the government was subsidizing smugglers. It was not working.
Radha has a question. How does Prout differ from capitalism? And are there any similarities?
Capitalism, free enterprise, is encouraged on Prout at the small scale. The three levels, the three tiers of an economy, according to Prout, are small-scale private enterprise, cooperatives, and large-scale key industries controlled by the government. So yes, capitalism does work if there are limits to it. Limits to the accumulation of wealth, of income, and of land ownership. So yes, capitalism exists today in the world, and we live in a society where it seems like that is the only possible alternative. It's not true, but it feels that way. It feels like capitalism will go on forever. It won't, but it feels that way. Okay, there's a lot of other questions. I will try. How do you see an Undermarga and the Prout movement related? Do you believe that Prout can exist outside an Undermarga, or is the Prout movement dependent on an Undermarga? I know a lot of Proutists who are not Undermargas, sure, a lot. And I try to keep inspiring and training and impacting others. Meditation, I think, is very important. It's very valuable to everyone. Prout does recognize the physical, mental, and spiritual potential of both all human beings and of the material world, the planet itself. So that is unique to Prout. That's realization, that recognition of the spiritual potential of people and the planet. So I encourage everyone to meditate. Prout will never force everyone to meditate. We will teach it in schools. That's part of Neo-Humanism. But no, Prout is for everyone. We have divisions in our organization. Of course we do. So what? I'm really not focusing on those. I really want to focus on the public. That's so, yes, we want to unite everyone. I'm sorry, I forgot the last question you asked.
What about a free sort of income, basic income?
Universal basic income is what it's usually called, and there's experiments of this in different places, and it shows that it tends to reduce poverty. So it's a positive initiative, nothing to be discouraged. Prout proposes jobs for everyone. Now, in the future, everyone won't have to work. Automation is taking over in the world, is reducing the amount of work that needs to be done. But right now, I would propose that we should focus more on jobs with adequate living wage, so that everyone with a job can buy the 5 minimum necessities of life. And education and medical care, I think, should be free to everyone. So, yes, it's a good proposal. And still, I would still propose that we should use jobs.
And another question, how to solve the lack of ethical leadership in the world?
Be a Sadvipra, make others Sadvipras. That's easy.
Can you explain that?
Sadvipra is the ideal spiritual revolutionary. Be one. And inspire others to also be that leader. Don't wait for others. Be the change you want to see in the world. Live it. So everything about PROUT, everything about Ananda Marga too is about transformation, personal transformation and transforming society at the same time, not one before the other. Don't wait until you're perfect. Don't wait until you're bulletproof. Actually, the world is not inspired. Well, I know the movies have superheroes, but what really inspires us are the stories of ordinary people who do extraordinary things. That inspires me all the time. I have literally hundreds of people living and have passed away, some who are heroes, tremendous heroes. Be a hero. Do something. Someone went to meet Sarkar when he was in prison, and he grabbed his arm and held it very tightly and he said, do something, do something, do something. So we should work for PROUT, not just talk about it.
That sounds like a cue to me. Namaskar, everyone. Sorry for not having my camera on. As you might have seen, along with the announcements for the Conscious Earth Alliance's many wonderful programs, the Proutist Universal Global Office has also been sending out regular announcements, newsletters, and we are constantly seeking more and more people to be involved as volunteers and staff. So if you want to join hands in efforts already underway to implement all the good ideas that Dadaji is sharing, please reach out to us. There's many wonderful works waiting to be done, and more minds, hearts, and hands are needed to do it. Put a contact email in the chat for everyone.
Here, someone commented, I saw many people on social welfare having the time to do lots of social work. So many more jobs and many more people could find employment in the social arena. Does PROUT have solutions to solve the unemployment problem?
Cooperatives. Cooperatives are the way to get jobs to everyone. That's what we should be doing. I've emphasized cooperatives all the time with PROUT. And in his book, Proudest Economics, for example, he gave many examples of cooperatives and ways to utilize the natural resources of the poorest region of India, West Bengal, and how to make that region self-reliant in the minimum necessities of life. Yes, cooperatives. People ask me, how do you start a PROUT cooperative? My answer is always the same. Wherever you are in the world, go to the National Association of Cooperatives in your country Every country has an association of cooperatives. Go to them and you will find so many resources. Cooperative experts are cooperative. They're happy to share their experiences. They're happy to invite you to visit successful cooperatives in your area. Talk to them. They know all about the laws about cooperatives, which are different in every country. And many times the cooperative laws are designed to discourage cooperatives. Capitalist corporations don't like competition. But the cooperative associations, they know all the ways to maneuver and overcome all kinds of legal obstacles. They also have a lifetime of how to educate and work with the local culture, the local psychology of the people, how to help them become more cooperative. So that's the way to make full employment.
Dada, you mentioned Neo-Humanism. Could you just say something about that and what is its relation to PROUT?
Neo-Humanism is in Sarkar's book about liberation of the intellect. It's a way to free your mind to think not only that all humanity is one family of sisters and brothers, but also that all animals, all plants, the animate and inanimate worlds, we are part of it all. And this is the philosophy that is embedded in PROUT. This is the outlook that we are spreading everywhere. They are intrinsically tied together. The PROUT Research Institute, which we are starting, we have just registered it as a nonprofit in the United States, is located on the campus of the Neo-Humanist College of Asheville. So we are part of the Neo-Humanist Gurukul College, and PROUT is part of the curriculum of that Neo-Humanist College.
Madhavi had a question. Please share where PROUT is the most active, and how are PROUTists communicating with each other?
Around the world, there are different models and examples of PROUT. This is the question that you will hear all the time. Where is PROUT in practice? No government. A government is necessary to make a three-tier economy. You can't have a three-tier economy with just one cooperative. So you need a whole society, a whole government to actually implement the PROUT model for everyone. I'm very inspired here in Asheville in North Carolina in the United States, where we're starting the PROUT Research Institute here. The PROUT Research Institute of Venezuela, which I started and worked there for 9 years, it's still running. They're still doing great work there in Venezuela. I'm just not able to go there, that's all. And in India, there are quite a few examples of cooperatives. There's a village that's becoming a cooperative. The whole village now is being based on PROUT. The village leader, elected leader, is now a PROUTist. The women's cooperative with agriculture and with small-scale cottage industries is raising the standard of living for everyone in that village in India. It's a very inspiring process. It's called Proud Village in a Town. Anyway.
I
There's
have a
another-
comment.
Please.
I have a comment of Neo-Humanism. Can I?
Please go ahead.
For me, Neo-Humanism is the main difference between PROUT and the current economic system. That is, it's the main ideological difference, because in the market liberal economy, everybody is supposed to compete, but within Neo-Humanism and PROUT, everybody belongs and have rights. So I find that the main ideological difference between PROUT and the current economic system.
I agree. Sure. There's some other differences. Maximum utilization and rational distribution are two concepts that are unique to PROUT also, but yes, recognizing that all of humanity is our goal, that recognizing that we have to share the resources of the planet for everyone.
In PROUT, and how does that relate to regional self-reliance?
It's totally compatible. PROUT recommends that every region, and this can be countries that can be smaller than countries, every region should be as self-sufficient as possible in the 5 minimum necessities of life. So unlike, for example, the agriculture in the United States is the opposite of this. On average, food travels 1,500 to 2,000 miles, which is 3,000 kilometers on average to get to a person's plate. So even in the agricultural states that are, producing the soybeans and corn that can feed the world, the people are importing 95% of the food they consume. So it's training farmers, training people how to grow food. And by making each region self, even in the United States, for example, the Federal Emergency Management Organization of the government says that every state, if there was ever a breakdown in transportation for any reason, because of natural disasters, because of political or economic, causes, if there was ever a breakdown in transportation, we'd run out of food in 3 days only, because almost all the food is being imported by transportation. PROUT proposes that every region should be self-reliant in food. This is radical. This is revolutionary. And once you have enough food for your people, yes, you can export the excess. But first, make sure all the people in your region have enough food to eat. So in that way, by making each region self-reliant and strong, you have fair trade, not free trade. Free trade only works if you have two trading partners that are equal, that have similar economic capacities. So one is not dominating the other. And then you have fair trade. And that's what PROUT wants. And finally, a world government to end wars, to end exploitation by any group of people over any other group of people in the world. a world government to provide human rights and the rights of animals and plants to everyone, to guarantee those rights and to maintain those rights. A world government is the solution. We desperately need that now, as to end poverty, to end hunger, to end war. What a beautiful world it'll be when we can end those things.
Could you tell an example of how you divide into social economic regions, or how big should they be? Is there somewhere any example of how you divide the world in social economic regions? How big should they be? And
it's a very good question. In India, Sarkar supervised the divisions of 46 different samajas that included India, Pakistan, West Bengal, Sri Lanka, all those countries, 46 different samajas, according to language, and also that every samaj should have enough, be big enough that it can provide the food for all the people and the resources it needs. Personally, so he gave different criteria. One is language, right? Which kind of unites people culturally. Now, so for example, Norway seems a reasonable region to consider. The people have a history, people have a common language. Yes, there's regional differences too. I recognize that. And so you could make two regions possibly, but I think one region. And Norway has the resources that it doesn't have a lot of agriculture because of the climate, but we have technology, we have greenhouses, we have so many things that we could produce all the food that the people of Norway need, for example. So I think a lot of Europe will follow the national languages divisions that we kind of have today. England, you have Wales, you have Scotland, you have Ireland, you have England. That makes sense, But South America's, almost everyone speaks a common language, even though there were many indigenous languages. North America, very complicated. United States, it's a whole country of immigrants. The only people who should really be running the immigration service of the United States Embassy should be Native Americans. They're the only traditional people. We're all, one generation to a few generations away from being immigrants. So, and the immigrant communities in the United States are all separated. So the African-American Samaj, for example, well, those people are separated all over the country. And the same for every national group, actually. So I think culturally, we can, Black Lives Matter was a wonderful messaging to save, to stop the killing and to save the culture of the African-American people, even though they're separated all over the country. They don't have a territory that's unique to them. So it's a very good question that doesn't have a simple answer.
But I would think that Norway was too small, that the Nordic countries should be one socio-economic unit.
Well, this is Prout's strategy. First, you make every region self-sufficient, and then you create alliances, federations of samajas. So exactly that. And Baba encouraged that idea that each of the Nordic countries should form a federation, and the federations join with other federations as soon as they become economically equal, developed, then closer and closer you are realizing a world government. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's a question from Madhavi. What are the main functions of a Proutist national government? I think, so how do governments relate to Samaj?
It's a good question, a very good question. They're all good questions. I heard a wonderful example of soccer, okay? The players play soccer. The referees, what do? They maintain that the rules are followed, that you have a level playing field, they call it. They maintain that nobody violates the rules of the game. But the referees, they don't play the game. They just let it play by itself. So in terms of economics, each national government should maintain the opportunities, the economic opportunities for everyone to play fairly, but that no one should be allowed to exploit, no one should be allowed to injure others, no one should be allowed to steal from others. This is the goal of the national government, to maintain economic opportunities fairly for everyone, and to maintain the defense, to maintain the infrastructure that's necessary for everyone. Everyone needs electricity. Everyone needs, of course, their housing. Everyone needs transportation. Effectively, everyone needs to save the climate. So the government has to prevent pollution, prevent exploitation of the environment, renewable energy, renewable resources, all these things.
There's a question from Radha. Is the world government in Prout fundamentally different to the world government proposed by the World Economic Forum, which is the
I didn't know the World Economic Forum is recommending a world government. They're not. They meet in order to plan how to better run capitalist corporations. They're not at all what Prout wants. Prout, Baba said that, Prout should immediately end the speculative markets of the world, the stock markets. You can loan money to a cooperative, to a company, but you can't own it. So Prout is fundamentally against the World Economic Forum. That's why the World Social Forum was created as an alternative, and Prout has taken part in all the World Social Forums to date.
Thanks. Another question, what do you think if the UN is made to be the world government?
The UN is doing some good things, but it's a political organization. So because it's comprised of different nation states, the United States, for example, it's caught in its own contradictions. Right now, it's trying to encourage that the International Court, what's it called? The International Court in Hague, in Den Haag, should actually investigate war crimes in Ukraine. It should, but the United States is not a member of the International Court. The United States is intentionally avoided joining that organization. UK has also avoided it because they don't want their soldiers to be ever tried for war crimes by an international court. So that's hypocrisy. That's double standards. That's why the United Nations is not yet an organization that can actually be a world government. But more and more people are realizing, and this is that the problems of the world, the problems of the oceans, the problem of the climate, the problems of the world are bigger than any one country. I would like to humbly say thank you. I think I've done my job.
Thank you very much, Dada.